Hey, this is Ray Bailey from the Authors and Chains podcast. I'll be doing a series of tutorials to help indie authors bone up on some of their graphics techniques. First, I'd like to talk about the software. The one group of software I tend to use is the Adobe Creative Cloud. The Creative Cloud allows us a set of tools to do audio, video, and graphics in multiple formats. This is the way you'll handle your covers and your ads, and pretty much anything else you need to do, business cards, bookmarks. The tool set is very versatile and very easy to use with a little bit of time investment. And priced at $49 a month, it's pretty inexpensive and probably will become one of the more important tools in your arsenal moving forward. A picture can speak 1,000 words, and one of the things I tend to do is leverage most of my posts, my promotions, or anything I do with the book along with a graphic, usually a custom graphic, something to bring in the reader so they can engage with the picture. The more compelling the picture, the better off the response is. So today I'm going to show you how to do a basic Twitter ad. With this, we're going to use a product called Fireworks. It doesn't come directly with the Creative Cloud package, but with a quick search or an email to customer service, they send you the link and you get to use it for the same package price. It is like a dumbed down version of Photoshop. So we're going to go ahead and start and open up Fireworks here. Sorry. Opens up a screen. I'm going to first open up a template. This is one I previously have already created. It makes life a little easier for us when dealing with these demos. So for the demo ad, I'm going to open up the template. Now really for the template, all you need to know is the size, and that you can find out right here. 750 pixels by 350 pixels. This allows this ad to be displayed directly in the space that Twitter uses when it's minified for users to see on their feed. So knowing that, we have our Twitter ad. Now, first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and create a rectangle box. If you look over here, you've got a set of tools on your left. These tools allow you to interact and create graphics. Now the one I'm using is called the rectangle tool. If I hold down over top of it, it gives me a list of different things I can use. I can use a rounded rectangle. So what I'm going to do is come down here and I'm going to make it, in this case, black for the color. So it has a color marker and a sampler that I can choose the color background of that rectangle. So now that I have a rounded rectangle, I start up here in the corner and I hold down my mouse button. As I'm dragging, it's creating this rounded rectangle that we're going to use for the ad. Now, as you can see, that's pretty rounded. So what I'm going to do is go up here to this first tool on the left. That's our pointer tool. We want that pointer tool. And I'm going to take it, and do you see these little yellow corners? I'm going to pull them in to make the rectangle less rounded. There we go. Now we have a rounded rectangle. Now I'm going to talk for a second about layers. Layers are very important because that pretty much is what you use to build anything. Because once you have built a layer, you can then lock it. So we've now built the back layer of that rounded rectangle, which is here. And I'm going to go ahead and see this little piece right there. Once I lock it, I can't actually interact with it. That means if you go dragging something, you're not going to drag the whole thing off. So that's our rounded rectangle in our background. So we're going to use another piece in the background, and we're going to go ahead and down here at the bottom of this little window is a little layer with a plus sign. I'm going to click it, and it's going to create a new layer. Now I can then double click on that layer and name it. We're going to call this one, hold on. You know what? We're going to call this one layout background. You can name it whatever you want. But now we're working with this layer. So this layer's locked. Now we're onto that layer. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to open up and get the piece I need for the next iteration. All right, so in this case, I've got a demo ad, and I've already downloaded a bunch of previous pictures that allows me to work with it. So in this ad, hold on a second. I'm going to use a full moon, but I'm not going to use the full moon because it's not going to all fit on there and it's going to look kind of weird scrunched, and I'll show you. So if I open that full moon JPEG, and just for a second while we're moving forward, pictures you can find pretty much anywhere. There's always rights managed or free pictures you can grab to kind of build these. You just have to kind of know where to look, and Google's a great place to start to kind of figure out where your pictures are going to come from. What kind of stuff are you going to be able to use? So I'm going to try to use the full one. So I went ahead over to the full moon, right click, and I'm going to edit and copy. So I've copied this whole picture. Now I'm going to try to paste it, right click, paste. And as you see, it's too big. So I can go down here to the bottom right hand corner and I can make that a little smaller so I can see that whole picture. You see how that is? I'm going to right click it again, and it's got an option called transform. The transform lets me do a whole lot of things. I can rotate it, I can flip it, or I can do what's called scale or skew. Right now we're going to scale it. So I click scale and it changes the profile and lets me move it, but still maintain the aspect ratio of the picture. You see what I'm saying? So here we go, maintaining that aspect ratio a little bit, and I'm going to move it down further. And now I'll kind of be able to take a look at what it looks like. Now if I come down here and just bring it up, it's going to look probably a little scrunched. So I don't want it that scrunched, okay? So what I'm going to do instead is I'm going to crop our picture and then bring it over, because I know it needs to be kind of fit into that rectangle. So I'm going to cut off our layout picture. I'm going to come back here to our full moon, and I'm going to use the tool over here called crop. Now if you hover over it, it'll tell you what it is. So spend a little time and you can really kind of gauge what these are. Now for this ad, I'm going to use just about the top end of that full moon, just like that. So there, and then I can hit enter and it'll cut the picture down for me. So now I've got a picture I can use that's going to maintain its aspect ratio for this ad. So let's go back to the ad, paste it, and then we do scale again. Remember, transform, scale. And I can scale it to fit within that area, and then I can move it to make sure it's right about in the middle there. So that's in the middle. Let me expand it back down here on the right to that 100. All right. So what I'm going to do to kind of match that in is I'm going to obscure that a little bit. All right. Now, one of the things we can do if we don't want to do a rounded, we can actually do a full square, and I'll show you the two difference. Now, if I do this and I go down here to the bottom, that bottom panel where it says properties, I can actually make that picture fade out. But see, for the ad, I don't want to fade it. So I'm going to come back up here. I'm going to lock that front, and I'm going to unlock that back rounded right over here on the right. So, and then I'm going to pull these all the way. There. I've now made it a true rectangle. So let me go back up here and lock that, and then unlock our what we call our layout background. And I'm going to move it right up to the corners. That's going to fill this out. All right. Now we have our background, so we can now close our full moon because we don't need it, and I'm not going to save that. So here's the base of our ad. Now we've got our background, now we've got our moon. Now the reason I have that background piece there, if I wanted to fade this out now, I can. I can actually fade that darker, and it would allow it to fade out. But I want that brilliant background picture. So I'm going to lock this, and now we're going to do one more down here with that little plus symbol in that layer. I'm going to click it, and now I'm going to put wolf, because we're going to use a wolf in the ad. So I'm going to open it up. And let's see, werewolf, there we are. So I'm going to use a werewolf in this ad because I want that werewolf on the back. And he's kind of vicious looking. But you know what the problem is I don't need the background he's on. I just need that wolf. So we're going to do a little something that allows us to pull the wolf. Over here is a polygon lasso tool. This is kind of an important tool. If you click it, it kind of imagine cutting into something. Hold on. Let me choose that again. And I'll start over here. And it lets me kind of, and this might look a little rough at first, but you spend a little time and you can learn how to use this tool to cut out pieces or layers. It usually takes a few minutes, but when you're done, you have the piece you need. And as I said before, there's a lot of sites you can go to get rights managed pictures that you can utilize. You don't necessarily have to know how to draw to build these. You just kind of have to know what you want. And like anything else, you tend to know it when you see it. So I tend to peruse these sites when I'm building one of these ads and find the things that I need. Hey, this would look good. This would allow me to make that picture look awesome. Now, some of the things you have to do, and I had to do with the book, is find an artist. And sometimes it's people you know or somebody you can find online to do depictions of whatever your book is. But again, if you're looking for something fairly generic, you can find some very compelling images in these places that you can use for paying a monthly fee or a small fee to use the picture. Now, once you have it for rights managed, you have it, which means you can use it again and again. And that's important as you continue to go on with images. If you had an iconic image for your book and you purchase it under rights management, you have the right to use that image in whatever advertisement, cover, or video you use. So that's an important factor. Something that's very important to remember when dealing with images. As you can see, all I'm doing is kind of clipping around this little wolf guy because I want him to, I don't want that background, I just want him. Now I could have been easy and just used the background, but I wanted that full moon. I wanted to throw a silhouette of the wolf in front of the full moon for our ad. And in order to do that, I wanted to find the wolf I wanted and the moon I wanted, but they weren't in the same picture. And you'll find a lot of that. Some of the pictures you have or find will be a piece of something you want here or a piece of something you want here, and it'll require you to have to kind of make adjustments or cut something out. It's almost like a collage. Think of it like going back to school and, running arts and crafts. This is kind of what we're doing in this case. So it's not too hard. It just takes us a few extra minutes. Now, as I'm cutting out his hand, and I can just use my mouse scroll to lower and raise the picture so I can get to the areas. Now, I can zoom in a lot farther than this, but for this demo, I didn't want to spend, 30 minutes cutting out the wolf. So he may look a little weird, and that's just because I'm rushing this for the demo. And I'm on a Mac for this one, but it can be used on any Mac or Windows machine will be able to use this software to allow you the ability to do this. And the tools run the exact same way on both operating systems. So you don't have to worry about Mac looking different than Windows in, trying to use this software. Sorry, I have a bit of a cold today. Now, I feel kind of like Bob Ross right now in the pretty trees, right? You guys are kind of mesmerized by this, I'm sure. You're watching me cut out a werewolf. The nice thing about when it comes to images and books is you are going to get a better response. You are going to give it a more professional and a more upbeat feel by using images with these. I tend to run a lot of images with my book. Advertising images, banner images, whether I'm advertising on a site or just posting something on Twitter, because that image is just going to get a lot better reaction than text. It really is. learning these tools are also going to improve your covers. Honestly, some of the covers I've seen with some independents are a little basic because they don't quite know how to do it. And I'll be covering that in a demo as well, how to create your EPUB cover and also your print cover. And we'll be using Adobe tools for those as well. So this tool set is monthly, and it's not going to cost you a bunch of upfront money. You know, you're not going to have to go out and buy 4 or 5 different things that cost $3,000 or $500 pieces of software to do this stuff. It's a monthly fee, and it gives you access to everything. I know I sound like an Adobe salesperson, but honestly, in all the tools I've used, I just go out and price Photoshop alone, and you'll understand the savings you get with something like this. Most indie authors are on kind of a shoestring budget. And as I understand, I mean, I tend to be too at times, you know. I've got to be careful where we spend money at as we're advertising, producing, and delivering our books to our fans. Yeah, sometimes it gets a little glitchy, but it's fine. Okay. So there we go. We've now cut them out, and I will edit copy. Now I have the werewolf. See, I can do a file new, and I can actually save that werewolf cut out now, because now he's cut out. Now I have the werewolf, so I don't need him on the background. So I'm going to close that. And what I usually do when I spend time cutting out an image like that is I'll keep it. That way I can use it. So let's bring it over here to our ad. Now obviously he's very big. So we're going to go down to 25% and we're going to minimize him. Now this is going to be nice because by minimizing him, it's going to forgive any mistakes you may have made in the cutting. All right, so let's go back up to our 100. All right, so then we have our werewolf, who is, and we're gonna put him down because you see the tree line. So I want to put him a little down. There we go. So he's in that ad part. Now I also, one of the things I can do is if I decide I want to highlight him, I can go down here to filters and I can go sharpen and glow, and I can add a quick glow to him. Boom, I've made him red. Now if I don't like that kind of much glow, I can diffuse the glow, and that's what we're going to do. There, I gave him a hint of glow. Now what I tend to like to do is I'm going to turn that glow off just by clicking this. I can turn it on or off. I'm going to go and I'm going to do a glow. Actually, I'm going to do a drop shadow just to show you how to do that. Shadow and glow, drop shadow. Boom. See, it adds a little depth to your picture. Now he's got a little depth to him. So now we've got our picture base, and now we've got our werewolf, and you know what? Maybe we want to make him a little more present. Maybe we want to make him a little bigger standing in that front area. There we go. We're going to make him a little bigger standing in front of that moon because we want that werewolf to pop a bit. So now we've got our werewolf, we've got our background piece, we're going to lock our werewolf, but now we want the rest of the ad. So I'm going to come up here to this layer, layer 1, right where I've got this folder, and I'm going to create a new layer. This layer I'm going to call devices, because we're going to put some devices in there to showcase our book. Now for this werewolf, I'm not going to save him because I don't need to. Open. You can find device pictures anywhere online. They are available everywhere. So in this case, the first thing we're going to use is a book template. So I'm going to grab a book template that I grabbed offline because I need to use a book template. Now I'm going to show you another neat trick. I want that book, but I don't want that background. So I'm going to go over here. There's a tool over here called a magic wand. Click that, and then just bring it to this white space and click. Right click, cut. I have now removed the entire background with one click. So now I have just the book. Sometimes you got to go up here and deselect it because now that book is, what you just want the book, and you've got to now get rid of the magic wand tool. I go back over here and I'm going to hit don't resample. I want to scale this. So I'm going to scale this down because I just want the book. And I'll show you how we're going to do this. All right, you see how I have that? You see at the very bottom down there, I've got that crap I don't want. So I'm going to, forgot about that. I'm going to go and cut this book out because I don't want that background piece. So what we're going to do is we're going to go back to our polygon lasso tool, and I'm just going to kind of cut it out down at the bottom because all I need to worry about, and it only takes me a moment. Now, since this is already cut out over here on that right, I can just kind of, there we go. And I can edit, copy. Now, once you have a good book template, you can just save the book template. That way you can use it for any of your ads. It makes life a lot easier for you than having to go back and find it each time. So you always want to kind of save your working files because chances are you're going to use them again. That just always goes without saying. So let me grab this book. I'll go back here to my selection tool. Always remember, if you're going to grab something, use the selection tool. And then I'm going to resample, and don't resample just means it kind of, I always choose don't resample because it doesn't condense the image. And I tend to like that. I tend to like to keep the image popping. It makes the file a little bigger, but when working with these files, that's not a big deal. So we have our book. So we'll call our book just about that size. And again, sizes kind of depends on the person. You know, depends on what you kind of want to do, size-wise. And I mean that. You can make it bigger, you can make it smaller, depending on how you want your ad. Now in this case, we'll actually make it a little bigger. So I'll scale it up, and we'll make that book a little bigger. But remember, you're going to need room for the wording. So we'll put it all the way over here. And then I'm going to close this because this is my book template. And now I need to go in and get my cover. And this assumes we already have an image. Usually I tend to use my, my EPUB cover. In this case, we're going to use the cover for Wolfen, which is an existing book, so obviously not mine. All right, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to match it. You see where it's got that top level? Well, I'm going to match it up there. And this is going to take a little bit of finagling. So now I want to scale it. So transform scale. And I need to make it just about, and really what I'm worried about is that bottom and top. I'm not worried about the sides, the other sides yet, and I'll show you why in a second, because you're going to do what's called skewing it. So now I've got it basically the size I want it. Now we're going to go transform skew, because we want to match that kind of book slant. So you see how I'm grabbing it and it's slanting it? Now I've got that. So, and one of the things I do to match up with that book is I will take that picture and I will turn around and I will take about 60% so I can see the book behind it. And I know, hey, look at that. I'm almost there. So let me move this in a bit, all right? And let me then skew it out just a little bit so I can match the book. And there you go. Now I have a copy of mine. And I will raise it up. Voila! You've now got your book. Now you can keep these two together. In this case, I'm going to grab this one by hitting my shift key and the one behind it, which is the book template and the book cover. Go up here to modify and hit flatten selection. I've just now created one file out of that, so there is my book. Now that I've done that, let's go in and grab another piece because we're going to need to put our devices here as part of what we're doing. If I grab it, I want the iPad. Just like I said, you can find any picture of any iPad online. And we're going to go over here and grab our magic wand, and we're going to cut out the background. Click, click, done. Deselect. Now I have my iPad. Don't forget selection tool. I almost did. So for this, drop the iPad. Now I want to size it. So I usually tend to like to make the iPad a little bit smaller than the book itself, just for advertising purposes. It kind of Control Z is your best friend. If you screw up like I just did by skewing instead of scaling, which happens, Control Z. So I'm going to put the iPad, we'll say it's an iPad mini, right in front of the book. And I'm going to actually, and usually I will take it, put it in front of the book. Now, it's kind of, if you look, it's kind of, you know, mucking in with the book. So what I'll do is go down here to that shadow glow, and I'll drop a glow on it, change it to a kind of like a gray glow, because it gives it a little bit of a highlight, and I'll phase it down. There we go. So now we have the iPad. And if you move it, you can actually go onto the same level as the book right there. So there's our iPad, and I'm actually going to make that just a little bit smaller. Wait, I did it again. There we go. A little bit smaller because I want to kind of ratio that book. Grab my selection tool, and I can put that right there. So I've got book, and then I've got iPad. Now we're going to grab that book cover again, and I'm going to bring it over here, and I'm going to drop it. Now this one's going to be a little weird because we've got to cover that screen on the iPad. So I'm just going to kind of skew this a little bit without freehand. It lets me kind of move the picture pieces around just by grabbing those edges and putting it over top. Boom, there we are. It is now on the iPad. So again, we can grab and then we can combine, modify, flatten selection. Now our iPad is just there. Our book's on our iPad. Now last one we're going to do is of course the iPhone, because we're showing the hardcover, the EPUB, and then the phone version. So I've got the same thing, iPhone picture I just pulled offline. This is going to be a little weird because of those curves, and I'll show you that in a second. What I tend to do is I tend to blow this up a little bit because those edges are real narrow, and you don't want that edging. You see the white edges? So I'll grab that wand tool and I'll hit it. Boom. Same thing over here. Boom. And it grabbed it. Select, deselect, pointer tool. So now I have my iPhone. Now I'm going to paste the iPhone here, and I tend to scale it, that way it maintains its aspect. You don't want to like make a stubby iPhone. So, hold on. There we go. So, and I'll move it over so we can see the book title better, because that just tends to make it nicer. Now you can move these anywhere you want to show off, you know, the title, or cover it up and make it a little stack a little better. So I'm going to go ahead and grab this, grab the title, and I'm going to scale it down, because I'm also going to have to do it freehand a bit, because we're going to have to cover over that iPhone. And this creates the iPhone. All right, so now this is going to look a little weird because we've got to match that iPhone piece. Now part of this is going to be skewing down the book to fit on the iPhone, and I tend to just move it over to put it right about the center. Now one of the things we can do is, because we can actually move that iPhone up, there we go. So I want to make this a little bigger. Let me zoom in on the image because I want to make this look good. I've made the image 200%. Now I want to have the book, I'm going to need to make this iPhone just a little bit wider than it normally is. And that lets me fit that book, and it doesn't look so skewed. Alright, so cover up that top. There we go. I'm using the arrow keys to move that image one pixel set at a time. It allows me to kind of just move it a little bit. That way grabbing it is going to move it too far. Let's go back down to 100%. So here we have our books, and again I'm going to do that combined piece because I can keep these. I can now save these pieces separately. So I go to modify, again flatten selection, boom. There's my devices. Now I've got my wolf, I've got my devices, My book cover is there. All right, so now we're going to have to title this. Down over here is a font tool, just like you use any place you write. So I'm going to take that font tool and I'm going to go The Wolfen. And I'm going to Control A, which highlights it. And then down here are my properties. I can change the text size down here by pixel. So I'll say, you know, there's no hard and fast rule other than what looks good to you at that. So I'm going to choose that same red, and I can actually go over here and sample the red on the cover. So let me find a decent copy of that red. I don't know if it'll let me sample the proper one because it looks a little small. So actually I'm going to go ahead and try to match it. There we go. And now I'm going to change my font. Now you can download fonts all over the place on the internet and find something you like. In this case, I'm going to use, it's something I don't like for a font. I don't want to use facelift. I'm going to use that. So I now have the font, which looks kind of good. This is our book. Let's make this a little bit bigger. Now I'm going to make this about 70. Yep. Now over here, it's the spacing between the letters. I'm going to increase it 200, and that widens it out and gives it a nice spaced look, which I tend to like. Now, there's a couple of things you can do with that. If we wanted to come here, and I could do, you know, drop shadow with that, and it would give that a little drop shadow, but in this case, drop shadow won't show up, so I'm going to do a glow. All right, so now we've got a glow, and I'm going to do that glow in kind of like a hued orange. That's too much. Hold on. There we go. I like that. And I'm going to diffuse it a little bit. There we go. So it gives it a little bit of a glow to that title. And we can actually go a little bit bigger on that. All right. There we go. Now we've got that little ad piece kind of built. So there's the book. Now that's great because it kind of says the book. And what I can do is I should have put it on its own layer, but that's okay. Actually, it created its own layer called the Wolfen. I need to put a last piece on it because you want to know where it's available. So we went out and let's say we grabbed the logo for Amazon, just like you normally would. Well, that's a black Amazon logo. Problem with that, it's not going to show up really well in our book. Now we can do two things with that. Let me show you one of the cool ways. You can actually take it and you've got a fill down here. If you look down here, a little paint bucket, you can actually fill in those letters to be white, which is one way to do it. Boom, 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 boom. And now I've got white letters. So there, now I've got a negative of the Amazon. And I could take that and I could then scale it. There you go. Let me grab that. Okay. So let's say we have that on Amazon. I can grab my letters again, come over here, and go available on. Control A to select it, because obviously I don't want it to have the same font, and I probably want it to be something different. So I make that font smaller, and let's say we make it white, and we give it like the standard business Arial font, which everybody seems to want to use when they're neutrally talking. There we go. Boom. Now we want to make that a little smaller. Well, actually, you know what? We'll scale that Amazon just a little bigger. But I don't want to overshadow the picture. And now we'll make that a little smaller. Available on Amazon. The Wolfen, available on Amazon. So then I could come over here. I could actually save that and have that negative if I wanted to keep it. But if I also, let's say, okay, it's not only there, but it's also, you know, Barnes & Noble, I'll grab the Barnes & Noble one. Now let's say, you know what? For this one, I think Barnes & Noble has a background. We'll see. Let's see what happens when I... Okay, Barnes & Noble is glowy. So that's Barnes & Noble own glowiness, actually. So I can go down here to glow because it's a PNG I got off the internet. And I can diffuse that glow. There we go. See? Now I'm diffusing that glow by making it less glowy. And you know what? For this ad, let's say I didn't want to use Barnes & Noble. I just wanted to use Amazon. And now I can put there's our, now I'll use a different font for the author. Let's say I want to use, we'll use that for the author, make it just a little bit bigger, and there we go. And now I have built my ad. That'll, from scratch. Now what I can do with that is I need to make this now a JPEG, right? So you save it in that PNG format, then you go File, Image Preview, you choose JPEG or GIF or whatever way you want to make that image, and then hit Export. And it will export the image as that file format, reducing all of those layers, so that way it's a single image. This also means that anybody downloading your image can't change it. All right. Thank you all. I look forward to talking to you guys next tutorial. This is Ray Bailey from Authors and Change. Listen to our podcast.